Imagine this. You wake up one morning and realize every thought you've had, every habit you've formed, every fear that controls you was not fixed, not permanent, but malleable. The brain you believed was hardwired by genetics, trauma, or time is not a prison sentence. It is clay, waiting to be reshaped. This is the silent rebellion hidden within your skull. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. But here's the paradox. If your mind can change, why do so many remain stuck in the same loops of anxiety, self-sabotage, and stagnation? Why do we act as though our patterns are carved in stone when science screams otherwise? Think of the last time you told yourself, "This is just who I am." What if that belief was the very chain holding you back? What if your brain, far from being a static relic, is a living, shifting landscape, one that bends to the weight of your attention, your choices, your will? The great question isn't whether change is possible. It's this: if your mind is a garden, why have you allowed only weeds to grow? The answer lies in a hidden war between the brain's laziness and your untapped power. And the battlefield is your daily life. The brain does not rewire itself by accident. It obeys a ruthless law. What you feed grows. Every repeated thought, every indulged fear, every autopilot habit carves deeper grooves into your neural pathways. The tragedy? Most people live unaware that they are the silent sculptors of their own suffering. Ancient philosophers knew this. Nietzsche warned of the spirit of heaviness, the inertia of old beliefs that drag us down. Jung spoke of the shadow, the buried parts of ourselves we refuse to face, yet which secretly steer our lives. And Schopenhauer, ever the pessimist, saw desire as the root of human torment, yet even he conceded, awareness is the first fracture in the chains. Modern society makes it worse. Algorithms feed your brain addictive distractions. Culture sells you quick fixes instead of deep change. Even neuroscience, for years, peddled the myth of the fixed adult brain until research shattered it. The truth? Your brain resists change not because it can't, but because rewiring is work. It demands focus, repetition, and, most terrifying of all, the courage to confront what you've avoided. Why do we cling to our mental ruts? Because familiarity feels safe, even when it's killing us. Because it's easier to blame genetics, trauma, or the way things are, than to wield the scalpel of self-reinvention. But here's the turning point. The chains are an illusion. The moment you realize your mind is not a prisoner, but a prisoner who holds the key, everything changes. What happens when a mind remains unchallenged? When neuroplasticity is left dormant, not harnessed, but surrendered to the tides of habit and external conditioning. The consequences are invisible, yet they shape the entirety of a life. Consider this. Every time you tell yourself, "I'm just not good at this," your brain obeys. It prunes the very neural pathways that could have led to mastery. Every time you numb discomfort with distraction instead of facing it, you reinforce a loop of avoidance that, over years, calcifies into helplessness. The modern world thrives on this passivity, a society of sleepwalkers convinced they are awake. Cognitive biases conspire against you. The status quo bias makes change feel dangerous, even when stagnation is the real threat. The negativity bias wires you to fixate on failure, reinforcing fear instead of resilience. And worst of all, learned helplessness, the quiet belief that effort is futile, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But the most insidious consequence, you mistake the map for the territory. You assume your current mind is all there is, rather than a temporary configuration, one that could be rewritten with the right leverage. The clock is ticking. Every day, your brain is being shaped, either by default or by design. The question is, who's doing the shaping? The chains are breakable, but first, you must stop pulling at them unconsciously. Rewiring your brain isn't about positive thinking or brute force discipline. It's about strategic rebellion against the patterns that hold you hostage. Start with awareness, the scalpel that cuts through autopilot. Catch yourself in the act of self-limiting thoughts. I can't. This is just how I am. It's too late. These are not truths. They are neural habits begging to be disrupted. Next, leverage discomfort. Every time you resist an old impulse, whether it's reaching for distraction, instead of sitting with boredom, or challenging a knee-jerk assumption, you weaken its grip. Like a muscle, neuroplasticity strengthens under tension. Then, repetition with intention. Studies on London taxi drivers revealed their hippocampi physically grew as they memorized the city's maze of streets. Similarly, deliberate practice, whether in meditation, skill building, or cognitive reframing, reshapes your brain's architecture. Finally, embody the change before it feels real. Nietzsche proclaimed, "Become who you are, not by waiting for transformation, but by acting as if it's already true." The brain believes what you consistently do long before you consciously believe it. This is the alchemy of self-reinvention. You don't change by thinking differently. You think differently by changing. Here is the revelation that changes everything. You are not your brain, you are its architect. The mind you wake up with tomorrow is not fixed. It is waiting, plastic responsive for your next thought, your next action, your next bold refusal of the old script. Every moment is a choice between reinforcing the past or designing the future. This is why neuroplasticity is more than science. It is existential power. Viktor Frankl, surviving the camps of Auschwitz, wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That space is where neuroplasticity lives." So ask yourself, what will you build in that space? Will you let the world shape you, or will you seize the chisel and sculpt the mind you desire? The power was yours all along. Now, use it.